Sheshatri.
Well, namaskar. Good evening to all, and it's really a pleasure, even though it's morning, on a very heavy snowy day for past 3 days, Texas, which people will laugh if we say that there is snowing heavily in Texas. So, in fact, there are some blackouts happening in major cities in Dallas and Houston. But I'm really pleased that things are intact here in Lubbock, Texas. So that's why I'm joining. First of all, I just would like to thank Mr. Srikumar Raghavan for thinking about me. He just gave me a day notice, but still, I'm indeed pleased that he thought about me because I have had nearly a decade of connection with him professionally when he was the editor at Commodity Online, a real salt of the earth and a very conscientious gentleman. So thank you, and I'm also very thrilled to see many eminent professors across India, including teachers. That's where everything starts. So my mother was a teacher for 40 years, and I am a teacher, but I teach grown-up kids. That's the only difference. And students too. So where are we? So, of course, I am really also humbled that Mr. Srikumar Raghavan asked me to start this forum when there are other senior eminent personalities in India. So, with praying my pranams. So, where are we? So, India is at a greater vantage point here. So, I'm going to look at it with an outside perspective at 36,000 feet, but I may not be granular. So, I just want to cover the overall and overarching thing, what is going on. So, education is tied clearly with two things. One, development of human wealth. I call it as a human wealth or human personality, however vernacular you can use. And the second thing is economy. Both are intertwined. So, I'm going to place in front of you, please note that I'm not preaching, I'm only giving my views. So, we are at a vantage point at a crossroad between the West and the East, geographically as well as in the timeline situation. So, China to the East and other Western democracies in the West. So, where we are. So, we have a strong basis, cultural and strong basis, and India is doing well in this scenario, which I fully concur with editor Raghavan sir, that given all the barriers. So I'm going to compare and contrast also how sociology, how ideology, little bit, not going into politics, also play a role in national development via education. So the education's purpose is to uplift human or build the human resource and economy. I think over the period of time since 1947, every government had tried the best. And in fact, even though the education is in the concurrent line, or according to Indian Constitution, the investment made by central government is really phenomenal. I'm talking from the school education all the way to higher education. So far, the central government has been a heavy lifter in case of cultivating the entrepreneurship and the startup culture. That is quite a contrast from the West. So, the government, even though we say in the West the government should have an invisible hand, in India the government has rightly had a visible hand, particularly when we move the country from a lower middle to upper middle income. So the purpose of education is to build human capital as well as the capital of the country. So how do we do that? There are, to start with, the investments right from the school. So in fact, India has done a better thing with this NEP 2020 per se. So it has given a structure towards development of human resource. So if you look at it, the 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 system gives a structure to incultivate the analytical mind. So that is very important. If you look at Europe, particularly Western Europe, kids go to school after 5 years. In United States, kids go to school after 4 years. But India is leapfrogging with a structure, although higher income people sent the kids to daycare in India from 2.5 years to start with. It has become a kind of mania. In a right way for some, not right way for others. We are not debating that. So we are leapfrogging in that the analytical aptitude that is given. So the purpose here is to improve the personality per se, the overall personality right from the age where people's cognitive skills grow better. So 3 to 15. By the time 3 to 15, particularly from 3 to 8 years, India, according to this policy, is leapfrogging. That is very important. When you go back further down the lane, that is very important with regard to creation of new knowledge, creation of supporting innovation, carrying out research. So in that fashion, I feel India has done, because I'm only comparing 3 continents, Europe, North America, and India in particular. Although I said continent, I'm just loosely using the vernacular. So 1 year extra advantage we have. And now that government has in a way recommended, I'm carefully using the word because education is in the concurrent list. So rightfully recommending that kids be put into school where they would develop the overall personality. So that is going to pay a long way. Why we need to do this? The aspiration here is, again, education is tied to well-being and economy. There is no doubt about it. Whether it is a socialist democracy or it's a capital market dictated democracy, the underpinning thing, the overarching aim is to lift people from certain level of earnings to a higher level where people will have choices. So humankind is such that it likes to be independent, it likes to have choices, and it likes to choose. So that's what Milton Friedman said and won a Nobel Prize on it, the freedom of choice. Okay. How you do is a different thing, whether you are going to have a Chinese style of handling or American style of handling or Russian style of handling. So what does this national education policy does? Of course, the most important thing which the earlier thing would have done, access and equity. Nobody is questioning it. So you need to have a level playing field. Everybody should have access to education. That is given. That's a fundamental right according to 2009 law. That every country should aspire and every country should have in this 21st century. Then equity. To bring some level playing field for people in remote villages like mine on the banks of Tambrabarni to somebody in New Delhi. So access and equity, that is there. What is something this policy is doing according to me? It's only a framework. It's not a law. So it is only a guide framework. We got to be very cognizant of it. It is not a law per se. It's a framework. It's throwing out an open field and you may pick and choose. States may pick and choose based on feedback what is the need. So I'm not going to debate on it. So what I'm going to do is, what are the things that is telling, this guidebook is telling, and how are we going to achieve towards excellence in science and technology. So I'm just going to build the bridge. Okay, access and equity given. But the other two things which I found not many media people talked about is, the one thing is focus. So while the major aim or a goal of this guide framework is access and equity, which I think 1986 policy has done it. It's giving flexibility. So that flexibility is clearly what we need, because that is the basis of human nature. It needs to have choices. So that is what this policy is trying to do. And it is focusing. While it is trying to give access and build equity, it is also focusing on certain things, because you can't do everything. You can't spread thin and do everything. So it is focusing at certain points where the government is saying, okay, it's like the Chinese authoritarian push or our earlier 5-year frameworks, whatever it is. So while the basis is to give the access and equity, so it is trying to bring the population to some level and then picking and choosing certain thematic areas where we should excel. So it is giving flexibility, and then it is trying to focus on certain segments, particularly say advanced manufacturing, pharmaceutical sector. All these are tied in with innovation. So if you look at this year budget, out of those 6 pillars or theme, I was really thrilled to see there is a sentence on innovation and R&D as a pillar to this. So that is what it is. So the basis is, what if somebody is, Cochin is doing well, not an issue. But are there people doing the same thing in Tiruvalla? Are there people doing the same thing in my native of Alvar Tirunagari? That's what matters. Once that is tackled, then you can't do everything for everybody. So then you got to focus. That's what this policy does. And subsequent budget to that policy focuses on it. Let's not worry about human health and well-being, because that's consequential of this COVID-19. Then it talks about infrastructure. Then it talks about inclusive and aspirational India, that is to satisfy the genuine needs of access and equity, and revigorating the human capital. How they do it? By giving this analytical thinking and self-development thinking right from the age of 3. And the most important thing for us in today's discussion is innovation and R&D. No other government focuses or makes it as a pillar when they present the budget. Of course, every country does it. And then the other thing is to give the freedom. They say, at least in principle, minimum government and maximum deliverability. They say it is maximum governance. I'm just using more apt term of maximum deliverability. So this is there. So the government realizes. Then the contribution should also come from the masses. So how we implement, that is going to be debated all along. How are we going to implement? This is just a policy. This is just a framework. So it is doing things in the right way. The focus is in the right direction. So I would qualify this policy to add 2 more flavors to it. In addition to access and equity, flexibility and focus. Okay, the focus is guidance from the government, maybe top-down approach, whether it's a central government or a state government, depending upon the needs, because those are the people who are going to set the future. In terms of economic numbers I'm talking, and the flexibility is what is from bottom up. So that helps to realize the full potential of a student, and that 4 years. So that is how United States curriculum is structured. So that has a concept of major and minor. So you want to be an artist, but artists don't make money. So the papa tells, oh, go and join a dental school, just 9 to 5, make millions, but then you explore your interest. So that is, you are realizing this value. This was not structured before, to my understanding. So this gives the flexibility. So this is very important. Now, why is this important? So I'm going to quote, you are all eminent personalities, so you won't take my word, but if a Nobel laureate says, obviously people will take it. So Professor Joseph Stiglitz, well known and known to be a great watcher of China, gave this, and I thought it is very apt. So he compares China in I guess it was in 1977 and 2017, 40 years. So he compares China. Then he says in 1977, there were about 770 million people in poverty, less than $2 per day. Okay. And in 2017, the number of people in poverty was just 30 million. What a leapfrog. And today, Chinese economy is 14.1 trillion. And it is the number 1 country in the world if you compare GDP as purchasing power parity. So people don't want to talk about it. But if you compare in general terms, United States 21 trillion, China 14 trillion. Watch this number. So 740 million people have been lifted out of poverty. And he names 4 reasons for it. First, education. Second, innovation. Third, infrastructure, which is very loose. So it is digital, it's brick and mortar. Third is infrastructure. Fourth is transformation in governance. Even though Chinese is an authoritarian government, it is basically a market economy with its own signature. So there are 4 pillars which Nobel laureate Stiglitz says that is what happened. And he gives a mantra, which is what I guess this national education policy does it. I don't say that there won't be any pitfalls. Every policy will have its own pitfall. Let's not go there. I'm talking overarch. He says, interest to learn. A country becomes a developed country, or it walks to the from developing to a developing stage, is if it shows interest in learning. That's the only sentence. His Chinese did it. And the second thing he says, this is what it is. We should not be shy. That's what I said. India is at a vantage point, both geographically, middle between certain developed economies on the west and developed economy in the east, like China, South Korea. China listened, China observed from others. So that's what we should do, and we should not be shy. And Indians are not shy in this, because for ages, that's what we have done. Ano Bhadra Kratavantu Viswataha. We were the people who took things, good things, Bhadra, very good things if it helps humankind from everywhere. Ano Bhadra Kratavantu Viswataha. So it is there in the culture. Listen, this is very important. When you look at one major power on the east, China, there is no religious book at all. So no problem, no barrier. If you look at Israel, whose GDP investment in research and innovation is 4.45, highest in the world, they have only one religious book. So where are the barriers? But India is diverse. With all that, it is number 1 in terms of global innovation index among those countries in South and Central Asia. So we are doing better, but we have to observe. We have to take good things from others. I think that is what this does, and I am really pleased to say that the government is putting emphasis on a structured schooling right from the age of 3, which is not the case in United States. You have to be 4 years to go into a public school system. In England and Sweden and other countries, you have to be 5 years. So we have more time to develop and build the cognition skill. So in principle, it is good. How we implement, there are going to be barriers, because it's not a small country like Israel of 9 million. Okay, and it is not a single authoritarian rule like China. You know, it's a functioning democracy with varied inbuilt cultures, with varied inbuilt regional prides. So that's what is being a barrier, but that's what I say. But now that people have awakened, people want their lifestyle to be improved. So if we could, like people like Professor Surya Kumar and Professor Basi, like they are doing the right thing, indeed great thing with all the constraint, if they could create the culture of shared governance as well as shared responsibility. It's not only that I should aspire for governance, so my voice have to be heard. What am I going to contribute? Again, I quote a famous statesman, Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers of, you got to question, but as long as the question is going to do something good, what is the greatest question on earth is, what good may I do in this world? As long as you keep that shared responsibility, it takes time. That's why they say this policy, if in good sense, if it is going to be implemented, all the aspects of it, it may take 2 decades, 2040. I think that will be a realistic goal, but still a tall order. I think this aspiration to be an economic, to be a knowledge power is in the right track. And I am particularly interested that the government is focusing from the kindergarten, pre-kindergarten level. That's very important. What is the new thing is there is some sense of structure given as a policy approach. With that, I thank again, and we can continue this discussion further on. Thank you.